Hi everyone, welcome to this podcast. Thank you so much for your presence. I'm so glad that you decided to take out the time for the topic today. It's extremely exciting, it's very fascinating, one of my favorite topics. And I want to introduce the topic to you through something which happens in your body. Something which will happen tonight and happens every night, not just in your body, but in all of us, in all our bodies. But I'm going to speak about it from your perspective, from the perspective of your body. So tonight, as you sleep, there are these channels in your brain which are going to open up. Through these channels, blood is going to flow out in waves, denoted by red in the video that you're seeing right now. And in is going to flow in through these channels the cerebrospinal fluid, which is denoted by blue in the video, but it is actually a clear colorless liquid. And it's going to flow into the tissues of your brain and wash them. Literally brainwashing, like we have car washing, you have brainwashing, and it's going to clean the tissues of all the toxins which get built up on a daily basis due to all the metabolism which happens in the brain, the glucose reactions, our thoughts, thinking, all that metabolism which happens is going to clean the tissues of the toxins, and those toxins are going to be drained out of the body, which, as you can imagine, is absolutely essential for the health of our brain, for the health of our bodies. So this extremely powerful, extremely effective liquid, this fluid which does this, is a cerebrospinal fluid. And that is what we are going to be talking about. We're going to talk about also from the world of yoga. We're also going to talk about some few things from the world of somatic EMDR. But that's going to happen a little later. I want to share a story with you. And before I share the story, I want to ask you that if you notice that the cerebrospinal fluid could clean the brains in a state of sleep, and as you know, sleep is an altered state of consciousness, an expanded state of consciousness, and is also parasympathetic state. What do we mean by parasympathetic state? If you remember that in some of our earlier podcasts, we have shed light on what the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems are. Some of us may already know, but for those of us who don't, I want to share that the autonomic nervous system is divided into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So they are like two parts of your nervous system. And if you can imagine like a river with two banks, and you are in the middle, you are in the river, and sometimes we get stressed, we go towards the sympathetic nervous system side, which is your fight or flight. And sometimes we are calm, towards the calmer side, so we come towards the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest part of your autonomic nervous system. So this beautiful model which has been given by Daniel Siegel, who is the executive director at the Mindsight Institute and also psychiatrist at UCLA, and he talks about the window of tolerance being like this river, and so you sometimes go towards either side, and that's fine. And sometimes you get stressed, sometimes you get a little calm, and we amble along through life. But if you get too much towards one side, that means either towards the sympathetic or the parasympathetic nervous system, now that's when you may want to come back into the window of tolerance. And all the tools that I share out here in various podcasts, in my classes, in my sessions, in my workshops, in my speaking assignments, and everything are all geared towards increasing this window of tolerance, because as you stay in the window of tolerance and expand it as per your unique and beautiful path of least resistance, while honoring and accepting our unique and beautiful path of least resistance, as you do that, you become more and more resilient in life. You start being in life, enjoying it, as well as managing the challenges from a place of strength. So that's, of course, about the parasympathetic nervous system. Coming back to my question, that if this happens in the state of sleep, do you think it could happen in other states also which are similar? And the answer is yes. And one of those states is meditation. In fact, in the world of Tibetan monks and other monks from the world of Buddhism, as well as from the world of yoga, yogis, they see reduction in sleep as a sign of spiritual progress. So if you can see in this particular study which was done that I'm showing on screen right now, in the second paragraph it's written that Buddhist meditators view decreased sleep as a sign of progress. So that means that even though they are not sleeping much, but they are seeing that yes, they are progressing spiritually. And if you look at the brain waves of long-term meditators, research after research, study after study has shown that their brain waves are predominantly in the gamma brainwave state. So we have various types of brain waves. So right now, since you are in the waking state, and presumably, of course, I hope all of you are there. So in the waking state, we have the beta waves or the beta waves, whatever you want to call it, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Then you come on to the alpha waves, which is basically when you have a restful time, when you are into light meditation. Then we have the theta, which are in when you're dreaming or you're in deep meditation. Then you have delta, which is in a deep dreamless sleep, and that's when a lot of your healing and regeneration happens. And then you have the gamma waves, which are seen in terms of peak concentration, when you have moments of insight, when you are feeling compassionate, altruism, kindness. Those are the moments, intuition, that you see the gamma waves. And long-term meditators, time and again through research studies and study after study, have shown that they are not only in the gamma wave state during their meditation, but also in non-meditative states. They're almost as if it's like a standard of the brain waves which gets created. In fact, there's this series of studies which have been done at the University of Wisconsin. In this picture, you will see Yongey Mrigun Rinpoche, who is a Tibetan teacher and is also somebody who he oversees the Terger meditation community. And along with him is Richard Davidson, who runs the Laboratory for Affective Neuroscience at the University of Wisconsin. And they've been doing a lot of research in which they have shown that how these monks are able to not only have these gamma brain waves, almost it could be like if they are told to imagine compassion and suddenly their brain waves change in their meditation state, and also are able to retain those waves in non-meditative states. So yes, even though they are getting less sleep, but yet their brains are in such optimal health in that sense, when you look at the brainwave patterns. So that means that in addition to sleep, there are other ways in which we can have optimal brain health in that sense. So are there states in which the cerebrospinal fluid can also flow in? Maybe in some way the channels again open up. We'll look into a lot of that. But before we do that, I want to share with you a story. So this is a story set in India. The period is 327 to 325 BC. Alexander the Great, who was the king of Macedon, known as Alexander the Great in history and during those times, is on a mission to conquer the world. And he has invaded India. And during his growing up years, his teacher, Aristotle, has told him that there are these yogis in India who are immortal. So Alexander had heard about these yogis through his teacher and wanted to know the secret of immortality. So when he reaches India in his army's camp there, he sends the soldiers around to find out if there is any yogi who can tell him the secret to immortality. So the yogis come and, the soldiers go to different paths, and then finally they come to know of a yogi who may be able to tell them about the secret. So they go to him in order to get him to come and meet Alexander in the camp where they had camped. And as they go and meet the yogi, his name is Dandamis. So this is the dialogue between Dandamis and the soldiers. I'm going to read it out to you. So they go and they tell him that, you come and you be with us, come with us and come to the camp. And he refuses. So then they threaten him, saying that we'll cut off your head, or Alexander, our emperor, our king, will cut off your head if you don't come and meet him and tell him about the secret of immortality. So the yogi says, this is his dialogue, should Alexander cut off my head, he cannot also destroy my soul. My head alone, then silent, will remain, leaving the body like a torn garment upon the earth, whence also it was taken. I then, becoming spirit, shall ascend to my God. Let Alexander then terrify with these threats those who wish for wealth and those who dread death. For against us these weapons are both alike powerless. The yogis, that means the people who practice yoga, the yogis neither love gold nor fear death. Go then and tell Alexander this: Dandamis has no need of aught that is yours, and therefore will not go to you. And if you want anything from Dandamis, come you to him. So the moment the soldiers heard this dialogue, they said, this Dandamis is not getting scared of our swords, of all the threats, so it really must be immortal. And they go back and they tell Alexander. And Alexander, of course, wants to know the secret. So then he comes and he has this dialogue with Dandamis. And as you can see that no, he did not become immortal. And that's why he's not around with us today. And neither is Dandamis in that sense. But what Dandamis was referring to was not the immortality of his body. The body is subject to birth and death, as we all in the world of mindfulness, in the world of yogic meditation know. He was talking about the enlarged self, or the spirit as he called it, or one can call it consciousness, whatever word one wants to give to it. He was talking about that. The enlarged self, that's the part of us which is much more than, yes, of course, these bodies and the mind that we call as us are magnificent, but there's so much more to us. And that is what he was referring to. And this loss of the fear of death is something which comes in, of course, through your yogic practice, because yoga by itself is so empowering. Yoga literally means yog, yuj, which is the union of the mind, body, and soul, or mind, body, and spirit, or mind, body, and pure consciousness, whatever you want to call it in that sense. But it's the union of all this. And when you practice, not just through your poses, yoga poses, but as you go through all the 8 stages of yoga. So a lot of us feel that yoga is just about asanas, about the poses, but yoga is so much more. If you look at the 8 stages of yoga, they start off with yam, niyam, which are the first 2 parts, which are to do with your ethics and morals, the discipline part of it. And then we go on to the asanas, which are the poses, then pranayams, which are the breathing exercises, then pratyahara, which is withdrawal from the senses. So the first 4 stages are to do with externalization. The next 4 are to do with internalization. So at pratyahara, stage number 5 is when you start turning inwards, withdrawal from the senses. It's not the senses disappear, they're still there, the body is still there, but you are turning inwards. Then, of course, is dharana, which is concentration, dhyan, which is blossoming of meditation from the stage of dharana, and then is samadhi, the union of you and you, the enlarged self and you, or the unified field and you, whichever the way you want to call it in that sense. So these 8 stages. So as you do these 8 stages, and even if you are there just at the stage of the asanas, the poses, even then you're practicing awareness through the poses on a daily basis as you indulge in the yoga asanas and the yoga poses. That by itself is so empowering. Yoga by itself. So I feel that yes, it could be due to the yogic practice that Dandamis had, that he did not fear death, but I also feel that it is because of the CSF, which is the cerebrospinal fluid. And if you feel that how come it's the cerebrospinal fluid, let me explain how. So for this, I want to take you all the way to the to ages, to years back, and this is when the Hatha Yoga